Hello and welcome back to another video here in this channel. Today we're going to be discussing just kind of the build up to the Sheffield United game. We'll be going over Sheffield United, talking about the strengths, weaknesses, how this Watford side can match up against them. You know, what can we expect from these two teams? We've also got some more things discussed to get through first. In regards to off the field stuff, we had some movement, some confirmed comings and goings, as well as a few kind of rumours that seem to be heating up and potentially getting close to done deals. So we'll discuss those. I'll also go through some questions at the end as well. But the main focus is this is going to be a preview for the Sheffield United game, the first game of the season, in about 24 hours time by the time this video comes out, I imagine. And yeah, there's going to be a lot to discuss. It's going to be interesting to see. Big game already, of course. They're all big games, especially for a team looking to get promoted. But you look at Sheffield United and you think there's someone on the team that's going to be around the top end of the table and kind of pushing us. So it's an important one from the off. So we'll kind of get started here nice and quick. So we'll go through the confirms. Okay, so starting off with one that we all knew was happening. Wasn't exactly a secret, but Gaspar has been confirmed by the club. He's signed on a 2-year deal, I believe. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm interested in the deal. I think it's a positive one, especially with the news we'll get following. It still looks like we're on the market for a right wing back. So whether he's cover, whether he's a potential centre back option, someone that can be seen as both. I think it's a useful addition we talked about in the last video, so I won't go over it too much, but it's a useful addition of someone with quality experience and some really good intangibles off the field, leadership and so on. I think he's a good communicator. I know he speaks Spanish, not English, but I think the way he presents himself is very good, and I think he'll be a useful addition to the team. I know there's been a few question marks about it, but I think with the context of another player being brought in, it could be really interesting. We'll get into his positioning and kind of how we think he could be used a little bit later on. But yeah, so that's confirmed, as well as Kiko Firmino going the other way. He actually made the matchday squad, was on the bench yesterday for Villarreal. So yeah, that one's done. Moving on to the next one, this is the kind of rumour that's been talked about a little bit the last couple of days, but it seems to be progressing. That's Ethan Laird, set to join Watford the season on loan. I think this is a good move for us again. We'll have a look at Laird's numbers a little bit from last season, but he's someone that offers us a little something different at right wing back, kind of similar almost in some ways to what Kamara offers. Although I think Kamara is probably a better defender, but someone that can get forward with pace. He can keep that width for you. Can get balls in the box. Let's have a look. So Ethan Laird here, obviously from his time last season with Bournemouth. And yeah, there's a lot to like. So I mean, you just look at his heat map to start with. This is these numbers are purely from last season in the Championship, but high activity, high up the pitch. That's where he wants to play, and that's where we want to play him. I'm sure that will suit us very well. And you look at how Edwards operated with his wing backs, how important they were to his team. You want someone that's got the ability to get forward with pace and help support that counter attack. Or just that attack, that dominance you're looking to provide from the right hand side, and you kind of look at the positioning, just going through a few games here, and you can see that he's someone that's able to contribute and get further forward. You'd like to see some more assists to his game. He got the 3, but I think that's something that's to come with time. He's a good carrier of the ball, and even if he's not the one getting the ball into the box all the time, he's someone that's going to bring that ball forward and help you drive and start attacks and get that ball into more attacking situations. But he does contribute, and I think we can't ask for much more than that. He's a young player. Obviously, there's going to be some rawness too. I think he, from kind of Bournemouth fans I've spoken to, he faded a little bit towards the end of the season. And Swansea fans as well actually have said the similar thing in terms of how he kind of went towards the end of the year, or the end of his spell with them, I should say. But he's someone that I think is a positive. It's something we should be excited about, and it's a good indication of us kind of looking to actually build this squad in a way that suits Rob. And again, this might be a player that he's shown some interest in himself. So I'm happy with this one if it goes through. Obviously a loan, but in these sort of situations we need to improve the squad. We need to get players in that can help us win, and of course we'd all like to sign a permanent, someone like Laird in a permanent position or permanent situation, but I'll take it at this point. So I'm pleased with that. We'll look actually a little bit how he kind of matched up in in the Championship, this is kind of looking at him versus, well, not him versus, but him and other fullbacks, wingbacks in the Championship last year. I kind of put a filter on, so over 875 minutes, just to kind of narrow the pool a little bit, make sure it's players that are getting regular minutes, especially when we're looking at per 90s. We want to make sure it's players that have a larger pool of data to pull from. But these are all indicators. When it comes to data, we're looking at it to combine with video, combine with what we see. We're not going to look at it and say, good numbers, good player for sure. You have to be able to have the context of both. So I went through and watched some of Laird too to kind of get a better feel, but you can kind of pick out some of the numbers as well. In terms of defensive stuff, he's not overly active. He's not a dominant defender by any means. He's further down the list here, kind of middle of top 50th, middle of top 100 when it comes to defensive duels won. But again, that doesn't kind of say everything about defender, because that's just the actual physical duels he's involved in. But defensively, pressure wise, he's good. He kind of covers ground really well, and we all know how well or how much pace can get you out of those situations as a defender on the wide areas, especially at wing back too, when he has that help of the centre back. But that's about where he is. Aerially, he's not impressive. I mean, he's a smaller guy. He's not dominant in the air by any means. You can see he's right towards the bottom here. His aerial duels won at just 32%, but that's not what you have in the team for. And especially when you've got a back three, you're going to have a centre back in that wider area to compete as well. XG, again, is it important for a wing back? Yes and no, but his is respectable. 0.05, it's nothing crazy, but it's not by any means far off. But the thing is, what we do want to see and what we want from this player, and what Edwards would want from this player, is progression, carrying of the ball, and that's someone who really does excel. You look at dribbles per 90, third. He's getting a lot of carries. He's driving that ball forward, a lot of attempts. He's confident to take the ball on. His progressive runs per 90, again, he's right up there. And you look at the kind of players around him that you want to see: Spence, Robinson, Williams, Willock, even. These are Brian as well. These are all players that you expect to be carrying the ball a lot and having those kind of progressions, those progressive runs, and that's positive. Again, accelerations. Let's be around the top, But these are the numbers we expect to see. So expected assists per 90, still up there. He kind of underachieved in that sense. He should have been kind of getting more assists. It's not so much him, I guess. You've also got the finishers have to actually be there to score the goals, but reasonably high. And then key passes as well. How many times is he kind of contributing in the key pass area, and he's right around the top again. So I think there's a lot to like. And as I said, combined with the video, you can see room for improvement. And you can also see the positives, how he could fit into this team, and kind of the things that he can bring, similar to that of Kane Wilson as well. Maybe not quite as, I'd say maybe not going to be the contributor that Wilson was from an assist perspective, but driving the ball forwards, I think that would be key. So that's Laird. And then we're looking ahead to the Sheffield United game now, kind of getting a little bit more towards that focus. And there's probably been a few other things that I've missed here talking before the game, but as we're getting close, the game's kind of the main thing. So, team news for Watford. I actually missed it. I actually didn't see this until just today, the end bit I'll get to. But so team news, pretty much a fit squad, apart from the ones that we know are missing. Obviously, Imran Loser. I think Tom Cleverley's still not fully fit, but he may be involved. It doesn't really say precisely, but the one that we do see here is Mario Gaspar. The encounter on Monday night will come too soon for Mario Gaspar. I hadn't seen that until I just looked at this prior to recording, but that's a little bit disappointing. We obviously saw Hassan Kamara line up on the right, and then Semmer on the left against Southampton. You'd assume that would be what we'll be seeing now on Monday. Potentially, this might be a bit of smoke and mirrors. Maybe Gaspar is available. I'm not sure, but if not, then you'd expect that to be the case, and we'd likely see that little bit of a unbalanced. It's not just about Semmer. I know Semmer has his detractors, but I think for me, it's not just having Semmer in there. It's also not allowing Kamara to kind of play to his full potential on the left. I think he's important, and with the wing backs being as important as they are, missing him will be significant, and also not having the balance on the right hand side as well. Maybe we have the potential to change that in game. I know we have other options there, Joseph Hungbo, Jeremy Ngakia, but based off the Southampton game, I'd assume that we will be looking to go for Kamara at right wing back. So yeah, anyway, so moving on to United team news, Sheffield United team news. They're without quite a few. Obviously the big one, McBurney, he's going to be missing. It sounds like he's been missing quite a few games actually for them at the beginning of the season. Jayden Bogle, Tommy Doyle. So they've got some absentees. It's not ideal for them. Good for us. Obviously McBurney is someone that offers a lot for them in these sorts of games, and you'd hope if you're a Sheffield United fan he'd make it, but it seems it's been pretty apparent he's not going to be fit for this one for a little while, so it's not surprising, but it's promising to see it confirmed, and you expect to see Brewster kind of leading the line and maybe some support from, it's hard to say, maybe Kadra, but we'll get into the signings of Sheffield United, and we'll also talk about how they play, of course. We just wanted to go over those that are missed. So looking at Sheffield United as a team, I guess we'll talk about some of the outgoings or more incomings. So they've been relatively quiet in terms of bringing players in, but they have got a couple of additions to talk about. Tommy Doyle from Man City on loan. I quite like that one actually. That's an interesting one. A lot of teams are taking risks from the young City players, and you can see why. But it's a big step up for him, and it's something that should be. I don't know, I think it's worth keeping an eye on. Kean Clark, we all know, he could come straight into the team. 32-year-old now from Newcastle, but quite a lot of experience. Pretty, standard central defender. Interesting to see if I guess he'd be probably a central option for the back three. Anel Amadozic, it's a hard name to pronounce. Ahmed Ozic, I think is how it's pronounced, but anyway. Centre back from Malmo. They pay a decent fee for him, $5 million. It's something you expect to come in. I think you'd be looking at him as an outside centre back. He can play the ball a little bit, and someone again we might see line up against us. But the one for me, which is the most interesting, and a player that we'd actually discussed. I'm not sure it was on the Watford Buzz podcast or if I did something on him on Twitter. But when we were discussing players for the right wing, an option for the right wing, I think it was actually in the Championship last time. Rida Kadra was one that I really liked. I was actually lucky enough to see Kadra play a few times at Brighton when he was in the youth setup there, and he's someone that was really, really promising. He's actually come on quite a long way. He's been in the Championship last year on loan, and he's now been picked up again on loan by Sheffield United, and I think he's one to be considerate of. I think he's most likely to line up with Brewster, but he's someone that can play in wide areas. He can play centrally. He's just a really versatile, talented player, and he can be a menace too. So that's definitely worth kind of keeping in mind. But Sheffield United, in terms of how they're lining up, what we expect to see, this is from one of their friendlies, it's pretty basic here, but 3-5-2 is their general setup, although they have had variety there. Heckenbottom, the manager, has had a few different options. He's had a few different looks. He's played with the front three, he's played with the two, but I think based on the availability of players, we're going to see the two against us, and it's going to match up quite... hit my light there, apologies. It's going to match up quite similar to us in that sense, shape-wise, but he will come out on top. It's going to be interesting to see. Of course, it's going to be a lot of factors at play. But what does Sheffield United like to do in terms of their play style? Well, there are some similarities. I think there'll probably be a little bit more. Obviously, we're still relatively unknown in some factors too, some facets. But they like to play the ball. They like to control possession. They like to kind of keep that intricate passing. There aren't as many crosses into the box as I'd expect from us. It's a lot of build up, keeping that ball, looking to probe and finding space, and then having that quick break. They've got some fast, direct forwards that can play in these situations. But possession base is very heavy for Sheffield United, and I expect to see more of that. My light's gone off. Bear with me. Technical difficulties. Alright, I guess we're going to go without the light. So apologies if it's darker now, but my light's decided to turn off, and I'm not going to spend the next 20 minutes trying to fix it. So, alright, no light. Anyway, So let's have a look at the team actual shape here for us real quick. So yeah, 3-5-2. This is looking at last season, their game against Forest in the playoffs. And what do we expect from the team in terms of in play style? We said that kind of faster movement of the strikers, a lot of slow build up. Off the ball, they're quite aggressive. They like to try and win it back quite quick. It's quite high energy, quite high intensity. But they've lost some key players. Obviously, Morgan Gibbs-White is a huge one to lose. He was instrumental in their season last year. He'll be a huge loss for them. But one key player they do still have is Sander Berg, and that's someone that I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Berg, but he's very, very rangy, tall, but athletic Norwegian midfielder. He can carry the ball, drive with it. He has a bit of goal threat to him, but he's very comfortable in possession. A lot of you that like Bielik, a little bit similar to that, but maybe more in the carrying sense. And he's a real threat, and I think he's someone that has the potential to dominate in midfield. So really important for the likes of Kayembe and Tunde Bashiru to be able to handle someone like Berg. They've got players that can use the ball well. That midfield, we saw it under, under Heckenbottom last year as well. But they're a midfield that can dominate again. They've got ball players, they've got control, they've got physical ability too. Whilst Fleck and Norwood aren't the most physical, Berg really makes up for a lot of that. I don't just mean brute strength. I mean just able to kind of carry and move and get around the pitch. But looking at kind of how they ranked last year as well, you can see just from the numbers how they set up and what kind of play style you can expect from them as well. It's quite evident. But expected goals, I think they actually undershot quite a lot. Yeah, so they expected goals. Finishing was a little bit of an issue. Expected goals, it's not a huge disparity, but 66 goals scored from an expected goal of 72.54. They undershot. But that often can be the case, but still. Expected goals against, I think they're pretty even. Yeah, not far off. That disparity is not bad. But you look at kind of possession, they're right up in the top 4. 55 average per game. Not a ton of crossing, I believe, per 90. Oh, actually, no, it is significant. Maybe the dribbling is less. Yeah, a little bit less than the dribbling. Kind of look at defence quick, actually. This is always one I like to see, how many passes per defensive action. So how many passes are allowed before a tackle's made or an interception. And they're kind of right towards their second in terms of winning that ball back quickly. The average is 8 passes played before they've won that ball back. So that's quite a interesting one to look at. Same with challenge intensity. They're up there at second. So yeah, you kind of just goes to show how they look to win the ball back. And then construction too. Amount of passes per game. Third, just behind Swansea and Fulham, 2 teams that again have a lot of possession, retain the ball in slightly different ways. And Sheffield United, I'll say, is a little bit more passive. They're maybe not quite as incisive with their possession, but still, it's something you've got to kind of take into consideration. They've got 82% accuracy. They're just spreading that ball across the back line a lot. But yeah, I don't think they're quite as incisive as the likes of Swansea and Fulham can be, and that kind of is evident when you kind of look at some of the progressive passes even. And deep completions as well. But yeah, so that's kind of gives us a bit of a kind of more of an understanding of how they kind of set up in terms of how they set up against us, in terms of how that affects us. I think that's where the wing back is a concern for me. I think having starting the season potentially with wing backs that aren't our first choice is a little bit disappointing in a game like this. I understand why. It's a little bit frustrating, but I think that's an area that could hurt us. I think having that natural right side and left side would be far more beneficial. But are Kamara and Sema, if that's to be the case, good enough to deal with it? Potentially. I hope so. Of course. The other issue I think is midfield. We don't know exactly how they're going to line up. We might as well discuss that as well, seeing that we're talking about this game, of course. But if we are to play, I think the question for me is how do we line up? Are we going to play in a 3-5-2? Are we going to be in a 3-4-3? Depends on the availability, I think, of some of these key players. Sarr, Dennis. If they're both playing, both fit to start, then I would expect us likely to be in a 3-4-3. In which case, you're asking for that 2-man midfield effectively to be controlling the midfield of Sheffield United, and with players like Sander Berg in there, it gives me a little bit of pause there. I think, is it a liability defensively? Are we opening ourselves up to be dominated? But contrast to that, the attacking threat that we have in Ismaila Sarr and Emmanuel Dennis and João Pedro. You know, it's a potential option, and I think tell you what, let's even just go up on the let's have a look here. We can actually just visualize this a little bit. Apologies for the delay. Yeah, but if we are in that three, that attacking three, oh wow, this is an old one. Okay, we're just going to ignore some of these names here. But yeah, if we are to be lining up in that three, how much can we push that back three of Sheffield United back? Can we force those wing backs to be a little bit more defensive because of the kind of offensive overload that they're facing? And you know, I think we can. You kind of look at the shape we'll be in the back three. Ignore some of these arrows; they're kind of not really relevant for this point, but this is kind of what we'll be expecting, right? So you've got the wing backs obviously in an attacking position; they're able to push up. You've got the centre backs. You're most likely having Kayembe, Dele-Bashiru, because Kayembe's a little bit deeper. Dele-Bashiru kind of getting up and down, moving these positions, and then this is the front three. That's the danger, the threat. João Pedro, you have the potential to drop deeper. Emmanuel Dennis, Sarr can go central, or you've obviously got the flexibility to push him on and have that front three as a collective, as an offensive unit, and really force that back three and those fullbacks, those wing backs of Sheffield United in to defend, and really try and make Sanderberg get back. And it depends, really, do you want to be positive? Do you want to be aggressive, or do you want to be a little bit more conservative and maybe kind of switch to something a little bit more traditional? Maybe we don't start Sarr and Dennis if one of them's not available. Maybe we kind of have that 3-5-2 that we expect, and that player's going to be João Pedro. Then you maybe go for a Dennis and a Minaj situation, someone that can Minaj maybe holding the ball up a little bit more, being combative and finding some space for you. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, in my opinion, I think if we have the players available, you go for that 3-4-3, you overload that attack, you be positive, you be aggressive. You've also got players in position to win that ball back when you have the opportunity to do so. You play hard up the pitch, you kind of close and make those pressing spaces a little bit easier for you, especially with the physicality and the explosiveness of someone like Emmanuel Dennis. I think he's an excellent presser, and he's always shown good commitment to the pressing off the ball, even in teams we didn't ask it of him. He just naturally wants to get that ball back, and I think he would really excel for Rob Edwards. So if we had that, in my opinion, that's a really good looking team, good looking shape for us to be kind of very competitive in this first game, and I think that would give us a best chance. You've got other options too. You know, we've got some players on the bench that can help. And also, I think too, you're looking at that front three. Another thing that I really like about that, especially in this game in particular, is if we are playing with, you know, Sema here, Kamara here, it takes a little bit of responsibility off of them. I think the question is, can they support in attacking areas? Defensively, they're probably going to be okay. Sema can get back. He can be a bit clumsy at times, but he can get back. He can be there. Kamara, again, doesn't really affect him too much from a defensive standpoint, but attacking, progressing, getting the ball forwards, having that extra wide option. Whilst it kind of might make these two here a little bit less kind of effective in attacking the game, their role will be more conservative, but it does give us that freedom to attack there, and I think that's where the game's won and lost for me. So it could even be something you'd look to do, even if we don't have one of those players available. Could you find some way of getting that front three? Maybe Asprilla gets an unexpected start from that right hand side with Dennis and Pedro. Who knows? But I think that's something we should be looking at. And I like this as an option. It's fun that we can talk about a manager who's got different options available to him and looking for different ways to play. And I think as this season develops, now this off-season develops, and we start to talk about the players that are coming in, there's talk of that left centre-back addition being made, Laird on the right. It starts to look a little bit better. We start to feel a little bit more comfortable. I've seen quite a few people kind of comment and say, you know what, this team's looking pretty strong. And just a couple of days ago, it was quite the opposite. So let's see how it goes. We'd like to have it in place now to know that this game comes. We've got, potentially Gaspar and Laird and, new centre-back on the left and different options. Although we will talk about real quick, actually, because this is one that's maybe not so relevant for this game, but seeing as we're here, we're kind of discussing line-up and shape. Mario Gaspar here, we've talked about, is he going to be a right wing-back? Is he going to be a possible right centre-back? How would he line up? And that's something we might as well discuss. So you'd expect him to be right wing-back, maybe cover, someone that can perhaps start, give Laird support, or someone, again, that can occupy this position. Now, the questions that marks always come up around these sort of situations: has he played centre back before? Yeah, he's had some minutes there, but how does he fit into this team? When we saw what Edwards did at Forest Green Rovers last year, the way the centre-backs operated, you had the left centre-backs a little bit more of a ball player, but someone that can still support. But the right wing-back, with Kane Wilson being so advanced, now we also expect that from Laird as well, but being so advanced at high up the pitch for large percentage of minutes of the game, you needed something from the right centre-back. And Gaspar could fill that role. I think he's someone that can defend well. He can be a good gritty defender, but also likes to support. And importantly for me, he likes to carry the ball, which is what we saw from Edwards' team at Forest Green Rovers. He can drive up the pitch. He can allow Laird to push up. He can give options. You start to stretch the field. Someone like Gaspar carrying the ball, you get in space. I think that's something that suits us. I like that idea. I think he's way more capable of doing that than the likes of Cabaselli and Statistical. Nothing against them, but they're not that sort of player. And I like the flexibility that gives us in possession. As we say when we play a back three, or the main worry for me is always, can you get the ball forward? Can you find a route into midfield? Can you avoid just passing that ball along that back U? So Gaspar I like in that situation. He offers something, and I hope we do get to see that at some point. I also, happy to see him play in that right wing back position as well. But from right centre back, I'm intrigued as to how that could be used, and as to kind of how much that was kind of in mind. Because right now, you'd say that if it wasn't for centre back, if he was just bringing in just purely for the right back or right wing back, there maybe would be a few questions. Because Laird's there, we've got Hungbo that could possibly contribute, and there are players there that can be involved. So is it necessary? I think he becomes a very good signing, or at least a very good option when he can play in both of those positions. So that's just a quick bit on Gaspar. I think we kind of covered the Sheffield United team a little bit more. We discussed kind of losing Morgan Gibbs-White is a big one. They've had some replacements in there. We kind of know what to expect from them from a playing style. As I said, we'll just recap. They're going to be aggressive off the ball. They're going to be looking to win that ball back nice and quick. But the use of the ball is going to be a lot of possession. Kind of find ways to break us down, and then get that fast break for the middle for the likes of Brewster and Khadra. It's going to be interesting. But keep an eye on Khadra, keep an eye on Berg. They're two players that are going to potentially hurt us, the ones we have to be very mindful of. And also these videos, by the way, it's been a very busy week for me. I'd like to get these out a little bit earlier. We got a game on Saturday. I'd like to have these out by Thursday, Friday sort of time, just to get the most time to prepare. And as I get a little bit more time, as I should do in the next week, hopefully we're going to be able to kind of give you some more visualizations here, show you a little bit in greater detail the opponent. But that's Sheffield United for now. I did get some questions. I asked some questions. So I'm going to go to those real quick. Let me just refresh this actually and make sure there's nothing coming since then. All right. Okay, so first question here from Mick. He was actually kind of discussing what we just discussed. I haven't actually looked at these properly yet. I kind of went through and liked a few and stuff. But do you think our midfield will get overwhelmed considering they have Fleck, Berg and Norwood? Yeah, this is the question. I think there's a potential for that to happen. As I said, it's a strong position for them. I don't know. It depends on how we operate. If we have the two, it's going to be asking a lot. If we have a three, still Pedro's still got more of an offensive mind. I think he'll be that kind of attacking player in there. I think that's the risk. I think Sander Berg is one we've got to be really careful of, and obviously the ball playing ability of the other two makes it difficult. But I think that's one of the areas where the game is won and lost, is that midfield. We need a big game from Kayembe and from Tondele Bashiru. If that is to be the two, they have to be smart in possession. They have to make up some ground. They have to be physical. They have to be players that can bridge that gap, because they're going to be required a lot to facilitate that attacking threat that we do have. Is Hungbo ready to step up at either wing-back position now, or will it take more time for him to be match ready? We've also got a couple of comments off the back here, so we'll go through them. Okay. If you watched 45 minutes he played in pre-season at right wing back, the answer is no. Looked uncomfortable, made the team lose shape dramatically. Kamara wasn't much better, but at least didn't lose anything defensively. Yeah, so I think Hungbo is a little bit off it's not his natural position. He likes to play on the wing, he likes to carry the ball, cut in his left and shoot. I do think he could play there. But I think if you have Laird and Gaspar, he's not going to be favoured. I think it's quite hard for him to get into the team. I think there's not a natural fit for him now. We seem to have gone a different direction, and whilst I like a lot of what he brings, I think he could be useful there in a certain situation. I think with Laird coming in, I just don't think he's going to get the chance, and I think the club really have to be looking at finding a way for him to play football like we did with Bar, kind of getting the loan to Dusseldorf. I guess we didn't discuss that, but I think we would need to be probably doing a similar thing for Hungbo. I know we all want to see him play and we want to see him succeed, but it's a tough ask, I think. Okay, from Steve, kind of question off the back of this. How easily do you think Gaspar can slot in based on how he played at Villarreal? Could he possibly be ready to go on Monday, in your opinion, or is it too soon? I'm also assuming whilst Sarr's at the club will play a form of 3-4-3, Ismail Sarr and Dennis either side of Pedro, allowing Jad to drop deeper. Yeah, agreed. How do you think we will line up if Dennis goes this window? Would you play Pedro Espria left or revert to Edwards' more preferred 3-5-2? Okay, so first part of the question, Gaspar, I think he can come straight in and play. He had limited minutes last year, and I think he'll be pretty fresh. The question will be, do the club feel comfortable they've done their full assessment on him, and do they feel that he's ready? That's the question. I'm not sure. I think he would be ready. Potentially, he's got some match fitness he needs to catch up on, maybe. But the club are saying that he's not. So I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if it's. I don't think it'll be international registration. He should be fine by now. Maybe there's a work permit that hasn't been. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure why he's not ready. I would have thought he would be, but he's definitely not going to be far off. And to be honest, there's a chance he even might be. There's a chance that the comments on the website aren't even legitimate or true. But I would have thought he would be quite happy to come in and play. I'd actually quite like him to in this game, especially given the knock-on effect it has of him not playing. In regards to Sarr. And Pedro and Dennis, I do think that front three, as we kind of outlined a little bit earlier, I think that is how the three would operate. I think that would be really effective, and especially with the two that we have behind them in midfield, I think it could be really productive and a really positive way of playing. If Dennis was to go, then I think you could still operate with that three. Sarr also can. If we have Sarr in this scenario too, Sarr can play centrally. It does still offer you a lot, I think, but you've got the flexibility as well to still play that front three. You could still have João Pedro in the middle with Sarr on one side and Espria on the other, or you could even go, Pedro could play from wide and a little bit deeper too. There's nothing to stop you doing that. It wouldn't be as effective as if you had Dennis, of course. It's not as natural of a replacement. Dennis is quite unique in that even as a central striker, he's so good at coming from the left. He can play wing, he can play middle. He'd be great, but I think there's a way to still do it. You still have that positional flexibility, and we saw Espria come on the right, but still in a wide position against Southampton. He did quite a good job there. So you're still going to have that tactical flexibility, which is key. So Lee, Kamara stuck on the right until Gaspar up to speed could limit how effective we are even at this early stage. I personally were playing Gakia for a couple of games there for balance alone. Just wonder what your opinion is, considering on paper we have a tricky start. Well, I think obviously since you made this comment, Laird looks like he's set to come in, so you're probably feeling a little bit differently now. But for the first game at least, Kamara stuck on the right is the situation we discussed, and we're just kind of fingers crossed for me we can either cope with it, or perhaps Gaspar is somehow available. I can come in, but no, I completely agree. And in terms of Ngakia, it seems that he's fallen down the pecking order. I don't think he suits that right back position, just because don't think of the right wing back as a defender. Think of it as an attacking player or midfielder first and foremost that also has this defensive responsibility. So then, when you think of it in that lens, how do you feel about Ngakia? Brad, best lineup to exploit Sheffield United injuries. How do you get the best out of Dennis and Sarr and Rob Edwards' system? Mario off the bench to allow Kembe to go on the left. I think you mean Kamara there, but I know what you mean. If Mario could come off the bench to switch Kamara over partway through the game, that would be ideal. Kind of not perfect, but it'd be great. In terms of lineup, I think the one we just discussed, the 3-4-3, have that attacking threat of the wingers and the creativity and kind of instincts of João Pedro. I think again. I think it could be one that it could be a really strong front three and stronger than with the system built around it. A much stronger position than what we had last season even. So thanks for that question, Brad. John, can Edwards coach Hungbo to play a role in the system? I think he could, but I think it would need the necessity of him playing to allow him to get the minutes. I think as much coaching as he does, he needs to be getting those competitive minutes in that position. I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to. So whilst there's a chance there, I guess it's up to the club to say, do you want to keep Hungbo around and give him the minutes in training, allow him to get the reps in, limited as they'll be, and see what Edwards can do from a coaching perspective to bring him into a level where he could contribute there. I guess it depends what the club feel best. I mean, yeah, it's a tough one, because if you try and loan him out, he's most likely to get used as a winger. So, Scott, how big is the Twitter meltdown going to be when we lose 1-0 in the last minute having zero shots on target? It would be a bit, but I mean, come on, it's the first game, and we're trying to build things. We're trying to start a season off, and I just want to see incremental improvements. If we don't play great tomorrow, we don't play great, but I still have a lot of positivity towards the team and where they're at right now, and I think we will see some positives, even in defeat. But the meltdown would be quite big, unfortunately. Nick, given Forest Green Rovers' reliance on wing-backs to create the chances for others and to make efforts on goals themselves, would it be reasonable to play Sarr from the right as a right wing-back? I don't know. I mean, you could, but I would want to keep him hard at the pitch. The thing with Sarr, the thing I like about Sarr, especially in the Championship too, what makes him so dangerous for me is how much responsibility he gives to the opponent the opponent fullback or wing-back, I guess, in the situation of tomorrow. If he's playing in that front three position, and you're set up in the left wing-back position for Sheffield United, suddenly you're looking around, you're thinking, okay, I've got to be really careful here, especially when you have, say, Laird or Gaspar playing on the right. You've got a lot of responsibility. Your centre-back's got to be drawn across. He's got to be helping out, and you can get that real overload. And that's so much what we relied on the previous time, the Championship. Sarr getting forward, he committed those defenders back, and they can never be too aggressive. You force them into being, respecting our break. And I think playing him in that forward area is the best way to get something out of him, or maximise the return from Sarr. You could play him there, but I think we have enough options that you could, with Gaspar and Laird, if he's to come in. Even Hungbo, I think I'd rather have them than have that threat taken away from Sarr. But I get the idea, and in some situations, maybe it's applicable. You could find a way to do so. Sorry, it's got kind of dark in here as well, so I really apologise for the light. I'm not sure how dark this looks right now. Not terrible anyway. Thanks for the question there, Nick. And then Richard, if we play 3-4-3 to accommodate Dennis and Sarr, which central midfield pairing would best fit the system and avoid getting overrun in the middle of the pitch? Well, I'd say it makes the most, I think, of the two we have available. I think Kayembe and Dede Bashiru are two good options. They're both very good athletes. They cover the ground well. But Tom Dede Bashiru, I think, can be really efficient in possession. You want efficiency here because you're not going to require too much of them. You can maybe have one drive on. We saw a couple of runs from Kayembe and Dede Bashiru. You want some of that support, of course. But you need to have that. You need to have that kind of structure in place, and I think they can both fill that role. Kayembe is quite comfortable to sit back. Oftentimes his criticism last year was too conservative, but I think we saw against Southampton with the right balance, it can work quite well. So I'd actually like the Kayembe and Dede Bashiru. I still think Luz would fit in there well. He'd just give you that extra little bit of spark in possession, and still some of the compress. But I actually quite like the two we have available for tomorrow. If I'm honest, you can look at the Cleverleys and the Goslings, and they can fit in there too. But if I had to choose the two based on what's available, I'd be quite happy with Dede Bashiru and Kayembe, just for their kind of balance and that structure they could provide as a two. I think it would be quite good. I'm quite liking those options at the minute. And the final question: will we win? Yes, we'll win. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers everything that we're going to get through today. I want to get this video out, and as I said, as we kind of get more, I'm going to hopefully have more of a routine now on my week. So as we get more to more through these games, I hope to make each one of these a little bit better and include some visualizations that I've made, just to show a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure on restriction for showing video from certain platforms. So if anyone has any idea on where I can actually show video from, I don't want to do it from Y-Scout and kind of break down clips so much. I'll think of a way, but if anyone has any ideas, I'm just trying to avoid copyright stuff. I can actually go through and show these games. I can do it more so for Watford stuff, I think. I think I've got an idea on that, which after the games, because we'll also be breaking down these games after they're done. We'll go over the game. The next video will be probably on the Tuesday and we'll kind of go over the game and kind of break things down and discuss what went right, what went wrong, what we can look forward to, and so on. I think I've got ideas for that in mind, but in terms of the other stuff, if you have any ideas, let me know. Any questions, of course, get them in. I appreciate the questions I had for this week. Please like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Leave a comment. If you have any interest in having a discussion, get on Twitter, follow me at Watford Analytics or Jordan Weimer, and we can discuss things a little further. And yeah, looking forward to the game. So thanks for watching again, guys. Hopefully we'll come away to the next one or be back here next time discussing a Watford win. First win, is it the first win of 2022 at Vicarage Road? If we were to win, that would be ideal. So I hope we win. Wish us luck. Thanks for watching.